Hi, sorry.
Oh,
Hey,
caught you vaping.
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Oh God, she's ringing here. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Had to get a coffee. Had to get a water.
Yeah. I just had a ice matcha, and sometimes it
God, stop.
sometimes it hits me like crazy, you know.
Right. How are you? Where are you?
I'm in Los Angeles. Where are you at?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Yeah. You still live in Malibu?
No, I wish. I can't believe I live in LA and I don't live in by the ocean. But um, a couple of times I rented out there for a little bit, and I fucking loved it. Oh my God, I could totally live there. I could easily live there. Easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
easily. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
bit of a drag, the lack of food and like going to places to eat, I guess. But when I was there, I went there for a month each time. And I thought, am I going to want to come home to Studio City, like, get back in? And I never came back. I just loved it out there. Loved it.
It has that, mystique of like, I think back to like 75 when Zeppelin was like working on tunes out there, Page and Plant, or Tom Petty living out there, the Wilburys happening, and just all that stuff of like the magic of the ocean. But once you're out there, man, ain't nobody coming to visit you. It's far.
I'm talking about Trancas and beyond. I don't, the whole Cross Creek, that kind of bougie nonsense that's not my vibe. That's not my vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids
You
and
know, it's
BMWs.
I'm not. I like cars, so I'm like, I'll take the BMWs, the Porsches.
Yeah, but yeah, not when the kids are 17 though. That's what bugs.
Yeah. It's funny because I've never ran into you anywhere in LA. It's wild. In LA, you run into everybody.
You do? I find I don't. I mean, I like London when I'm there. What I like about that is that you do indeed run into people. There's an element of chance, and sometimes, of course, in LA. But once I was walking into the Topanga Mall, and I walked into fucking Mick Fleetwood.
Oh,
That was a great day. I love him.
I tell you what, I'm exactly the same age as you, and I can't even tell you how much I love Fleetwood Mac. All eras, of course, but really that insane songwriting of the Rumors era, it's nuts.
Yeah, and I just love him. He's great. What a character.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was great. But outside a couple of times, yeah, not enough. I would have been happy to bump into you.
Yeah. Do you go out at all? I mean, you're like 59. I don't like to
Yeah.
go out unless I do comedy every night, but I'm not a guy that goes out anymore.
um, I mean, I love going out for dinner. It depends. I mean, I'd go and see comedy. I went to Joe Rogan's spot and I saw Tony Hinchcliffe doing his podcast from there. It's a bit disappointing to not see the great stand-up comics coming in since I was in Austin, but it's great to go to that club. Have you played that club?
I have. I did it like I think about 3 weeks in. Bill Burr and I went in there and did a couple nights in a row while we were out there for the MotoGP
Right.
motorcycle races. But
Nice.
yeah, that's
Nice.
a beautiful room, man. You ever go to the Comedy Store?
I have done. I haven't been for a minute, and I would love to go again. Actually, I live comedy is great.
Yeah, it really is, man. You got to come down anytime as my guest.
Okay, I love that.
It's great to have you on. 30 years. This is mind-boggling to me because whenever people go like, "Oh man, we're getting old," 30 years, but I really look at it as like I've been talking about this lately. All that 90s music, of course, the grunge and stuff after that, it's really it's classic rock now, is what it is.
Right. So, meaning just showing you that life is just all perspectives. Words are just about perspectives,
Yeah.
semantics. I mean, I just did an interview with the classic guitar, like back in the days, like classic guitar was for Fleetwood Mac.
Exactly. But
So,
I remember seeing you guys. I think it was Voodoo Fest in New Orleans.
oh, we set the speaker on fire there. We had Dave Natal, our sound guy. He just is his best favorite gig he ever did because he said we set the speaker on fire at Voodoo Fest in New Orleans. But yeah, yeah, I haven't been back. I need to get back to New Orleans. I like to. I like Louisiana is incredible. I like going deep in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, the Creole culture and all that, it's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, yeah.
Let me ask you some things about because I played music for a long time, and kind of Bush came out of nowhere, and I was thinking about the whole grind of a band and everything. Were you guys a band? Because I didn't know. All of a sudden, here's Bush, massive record,
Right.
songs galore. But were you guys out like playing the clubs in London and stuff like that and demoing? How did this all happen?
Yeah, we'd been a band for about 2 years, and I had met the guitar player Nigel through a friend of mine. He didn't want to write songs with me. He was busy getting paid for doing music for like training videos and end of year conferences, like funny bullshit stuff, but paid him money, 1,000 every time is a lot of money. So he was interested in writing with me because he didn't want to have another fucking loser taking up his day trying to write a fucking hit song. So he said, but listen, if you have a song, bring it to me and I'll help you demo it up. And so that's what I did. And so I would just bring him 16 stone plus maybe five or six others of songs. And then we demo them up. And then after about six, seven songs, and I'd say, hey, you want to write with me? He goes, no, you're not paying me. I'm getting too much money doing this other stuff. It's all good. Bring him in. And then when we had enough stuff, we got a friend of mine who was a heroin addict at the time to come in and play drums with us when he wasn't nodding out. And he played drums with us for a bit. And then I knew of a band in London who had a great looking bass player. And he looked like Paul Simon for the Clash. So I was like, does he want to come in? So he came in and played and was just great. And then we basically found and got this record deal on the base of the demos we did. And we had this Iranian drummer called Amir, who I loved. And he was really funky, Iranian. And he, just before we were about to sign the deal, he left to join a 12-piece jazz band.
Oh wow.
I was like, Amir, we got to this point, and he was a really fucking loose jazz drummer. He was incredible, and imagine how big the band could have been. And so he left, and then so we found this other drummer, Robin, like 2 weeks before we got the deal. So then he came and played the record with us, and he was really good, solid rock drummer. Wasn't a jazz drummer. I know Bill, who your friend, is a great jazz drummer aficionado. So I like the jazz drummers, but Robin was a really great rock drummer, really, really strong. So that's how the sound was. That's what it gave, and it was incredible. And the most important thing was that everyone who was in the band was committed to, once the first show began in 95, like January 95, we just never came off the road. We just toured and played, and went from clubs to theaters to small cut down arenas to arenas, all on one record, all over the place of 2 years. And yes, it was just wild. But yeah, good times. Really, really, really amazing times.
I mean, your record is kind of like one of those magic records that happen probably once every 10 years or so, meaning a band comes out with a debut and you see them go from the clubs to opening for a band, then they come back around, their headline, and then all of a sudden they're in arenas. I'm thinking about Guns N' Roses' Appetite, the same kind of level, because this fucking 16, Stone, it just exploded. It was hit
Yeah.
after hit after hit. And I was playing music at the time, and I was like, well, this fucking guy looks like a 10. And then he has all these songs and he can play and sing. I'm fucked. How am I going to compete with that? It was
Well,
fucking,
the thing about it is that what's so funny is that people always want more than one record they love. So it's just up to us to make the records. I'm fine if five bands make five great records. I'm like, fucking thank you, everyone. So it's so funny because we're so conditioned for it to being, there's the charts, there's the numbers, it's all pitted against each other. But the bottom line is that none of us want one record for life. That'd be fucking dull as dishwater. So it's like it's great when people make great records. I love it. I'm so diligent. When people bring out records, um, I sit and I listen to them and I read the lyrics and I just I want to be, it's like a best man's wedding speech. It's like the easiest fucking gig in the world. Everybody wants you to win. Everybody wants you can't fuck that up, and so how people start records. I mean, I'm old school obviously, so it's not just one song for me. It's like if I like someone's song they've made, I want to know what everything about them. What's this period of time? If you like a comics joke, you want to hear their act. You don't exist on a fucking one joke. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just saying this a couple days ago to somebody. It's like I I praise other people's success, like around the Comedy Store, because it just makes more excitement for
Yeah.
comedy. And
Oh yeah.
I never understood rivals and all that.
We
I
want you all
understand.
to be funny. We want
Yeah,
you all to be funny.
yeah,
We
yeah,
want you all to be funny.
yeah, because it's just going to flourish the scene, and I think the rival thing is definitely geared around industry. Like, yeah, get them, let's get some tension and stuff. And there was a lot of that going on around Bush at the time. It's like, Nirvana and all this stuff. But the bottom line is, people like you and Stone Temple Pilots, these bands were writing fucking massive, massive hits, man. These songs are, I mean, you hear Machine Head and you're fucked all day. Breathe in, breathe out. You're just on that thing like, oh my God. You know what I always say? It's a song that had the hook that caught Jaws. That's how big that hook was. It could catch the shark Jaws.
That's cool. Thank you. Well, yeah, it's funny because the best thing about this when I am talking about this record at the moment because the anniversary is that, and the strongest thing I thought when I was on tour just now playing it, and I'd say it a lot, was like there's so much fucking innocence in those songs because I'd been so used to not being successful that it was just like writing another joke that no one hears. But yet you want the joke to be good. You know what I mean? You want to make it good. And so it was just liberating to just to have that. Suddenly the world cracks open and it's wild. And we're still doing it now and still loving it. I don't know if it's like I'm crazy, but I still get mad enjoyment out of it, and I love it. I love going on stage. I played 2 nights ago. It was fantastic, so much fun, and get lost in it, and just you know, I love it.
Let me ask you, when you're in the studio doing this record, you did it in London, Westway Studios, is that still around?
Good question. I hope so. I'm not sure, but it was a great studio. So whilst it may not be named Westway Studios, but someone's definitely going to have had the space and the acoustics. But if it was called that, still, we should Google it while we're on it.
Yeah.
If only we had assistants. We need assistants.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has always got a guy there. Hey, check it out, Scott. I could just play with imaginary and just
God, I'm dying to get to the level to have an assistant, not because I want to be a star, but just more of just like, fuck, somebody help me.
yeah. I mean, dude, I love you. You haven't even got a mic stand.
Yeah.
Like you're doing everything.
Well, I've been doing this thing 12 years and I've had all my favorite people on, and I keep thinking, like, okay, I'm going to get this and I'll get that. And then when you delegate stuff to people, they fuck it up and you go, nope, I got to just do it myself.
It's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go in the studio. What was the budget, and how long did it take to track this record? Because
Well,
it's sonically, there's no date on it. It's huge sounding still right now. It's not like
yeah. Yes, incredible. You know what was great about it is that the guy that ran the label had just come off of managing George Michael. So he'd been around big budget records and understanding that. So I think that the one thing that I never thought about, which is obviously a luxury to a young band, was that we you were going in the studio in whenever it was, January, and we were booked for like 2 months.
Whoa.
It was like, well, I'd done everything, every demo I'd ever done in my life was done over a 2, 3 day period where by the third day, if you had 3 days, I mean, that was a lot of time, Dave, but if you had 3 days, you would do three songs. And what would happen is by the third day, you'd start fucking up the mix by about 10 o'clock at night. And you'd know everyone be, and by the time you do the mix at 2 in the morning, where you all think you've written fucking, the new Zeppelin, you get home and you play that shitty cassette the next morning and you're like, what the fuck happened? You'd fuck it up, somehow it'd get fucked. There was always one bit where it would sound exciting and then like just through lack of knowledge and skill, we just would fuck it by the time. So it was great to be in a studio where you could have a little bit, you weren't like being rushed out, like sort of like rats off of a sinking ship, you just had the luxury of the studio. We had my best mate's brothers do the catering. So they would do like bacon sandwiches in the morning and a bowl of pasta at night. So that was kind of fun to have like being catered for. We'd usually just be going to like for egg and spoons, big fry ups for lunch or something, or cheap Chinese. So that was just a luxury to do that. And Alan Winstanley, who's the engineer, just was a great engineer. I just remember those studios and just how it sounded, and playing those records when we were done is sitting there and just, again, no concept of success, no connection to success. I was only married to betrothed to failure at that point. So it was like, it just was like great to have that first legacy. Like if you're a writer, you get to fucking write a book, or if you get to paint a picture that someone might see. Just making a record was like, oh my God, we did it. We fucking climbed the mountain. We making a record. So that feeling of playing that album back, and I did it a number of times in that studio on my own, top to bottom, playing that record, where it was just like, oh my God, we fucking, because it feels like a mad bluff when you've been struggling so long. To produce something just feels like, what the fuck? How do we, because we'd done everything the same before, but we hadn't produced anything. So now we got that. So it was a great feeling. It's good fun.
Once that thing comes out and it just starts smashing on the radio. So you come to America, right? And you're what are you doing? Clubs at first, like in
Yeah,
LA, like the Troubadour or Roxy or something?
yeah, we played, you know, CBGB's was the first show, and then and the Roxy here. Yes, all everywhere we played, every band that we thought was great, which was every rock band, had played that venue. Every single band. So it was really fun to be on the on the circuit, and to be playing where so and so had just played 4 nights earlier. Like, wow, this is fucking, we're in the right direction. When you're sort of failing in London and just playing around the pubs of Camden, you just feel like, well, weirdly enough, I felt like I was building something. I didn't feel like an abject failure. Fuck, this is not happening. Because it was like, okay, write another song, write another song. And we built up our arsenal. I didn't have to wait for record company money to do the demos. That was
Right.
what was important. We could do sort of first demos. And then when we did the second set of demos, we got a really cheap guy in this housing estate in Hounslow. It's like Europe's biggest ghetto. And so we had this guy come from LA. He had the George Michael moustache, beard, coiffed, and with a driver, and like, lucky to not get mugged on the way in, just like he kept his shit, and just came in and signed us and said we're gonna have a lot of fun, and we did.
What
Um,
what was that on? Interscope? What label was that on?
well, it was on Trauma, and then it was originally on Hollywood Records signed it,
Oh
and then
shit.
that distribution deal fell through. The guy died tragically. Then they hated the record at Hollywood Records. They didn't like that record, so we got dropped. So I went from hero to back to failing again because the record got dropped. For 4, 5 months, the record was dropped from
Whoa.
Hollywood Records. Yeah, that could have been a Hollywood Records record, but no, it got dropped. And then so I was like, oh fuck it. So it was normal to me, and I went back to work. I was back working, painting. I was just doing my job, doing my day job to make money and to eat. And I was like, oh well, fuck it, you made it. Do you know what I mean? It was like already a triumph. And then they said, oh, K Rock is listening to it. And then, as soon as it got on K Rock, that's when Ted Field at Interscope heard it on K Rock and said, let's get behind this band. And that was it. Jimmy Iovine and all that lot, you know.
Oh my
Steve,
God. Interscope was such a powerhouse back then, man. It was
Steve Berman.
crazy.
Yeah.
Whatever they touched was just fire over there, whether it be hip hop or rock. It was just, I
Yeah.
mean, they were on.
Great leg. Yeah.
Now, once it hits, obviously you're in full rock star mode. Do you have any like once you're out there, do you just start going like get delusional? Like what the fuck is happening, man? Because you guys were on the road forever.
Mhm. Well, I knew what the fuck was happening because we were like living it, but it was just so, it was such a great rocket ship to be tied to, attached to. There's so much excitement, now we look at life and there's a sense of horizon and the sense of like, okay, you know 23 summers until we're a bird, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then but at that point it's just like, what the fuck is this world, what's happening, like look at all these people, and wherever we went it was just feverish, and you kept on thinking that, well, okay, but this is how much longer of this fever, and this can't last. And that's where you're wrong. And when you that combination of MTV, touring and radio, those three powerhouses together, and rock music being the center of the culture, is fucking, this is like unstoppable. And I look at it now, kids coming up, it's just so hard. The best they can hope for, which is not bad, is to have the big runaway hit on TikTok and then build from an audience of like 7 billion on one song and then 14 people listen to the other song, and having a career and how that translates to them. Anyone who's written a great track should be able to write another great track, right? And so it's how do people make careers. It's a head fuck. I mean, my own two of my boys are really, really talented singers, and they're creative, want to do it. And I'm just like, I feel for them, because I'm just like thinking, wow, how? But I mean, I'll help you however I can. But man, are you sure you don't want to, be an AI genius? Are
Yeah.
you sure? You sure you? Because it's really funny. I mean, like your job. I think that we have ancient jobs. I mean, I think it's why like comedians. I think that why we have a great similarity with musicians. So we're like that. It is ancient jobs to come, and comedy is there to sort of question the status quo, is to question from government to society, to make fun of what's going on, but to educate us. That's what its genesis is, right? That's what right. So it has a function in society, and like, for me, writing songs feels like you come into town with your elixir and you sell a magic potion. You make someone feel better by singing them a song. So these are ancient pastimes, caught up in a modern streaming AI fucking world, because people need that human stories, connection, ways to identify with each other. So I can write songs of pain or struggle and people totally relate to them. And I know that because I live it. And you can write jokes that are fucking funny because people need to break from the fucking challenges of the tragedies we all have to go through, right? So, but that it's still a really dicey way to choose to live your life in a modern world, because it's just on the edge of humanity. It's just holding on to like that people who just want that human touch enough that you and I have jobs still. So when my kids want to do that, would I prefer it? They were like whiz kid code writers and new AI inside out. That would seem much smarter way of going to for your own sort of preservation than relying on people needing people.
Yeah, especially in the world of just at least when you started music and I was playing music, we never thought about the money or anything like that, but there was a possibility that something could happen and you could, like this first album of yours sold so many that technically you could live the rest of your life on that, the money from that. But now it's like you said, TikTok, it blows up and then you're gone. And it's so disposable and it's so confusing. I have new bands on all the time and I even worship them more now because I know there's probably nothing monetary wise. So they're really playing, you know, for the love of music, I think.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I don't know how it is. I know that I have to go out and play in order to have a sustain my lifestyle. Because by the way, yeah, you can make the money. You can come from having no money, and you make enough money, and people think, well, fuck, you could live like that forever. Yeah, the fuckery is that when you if you make money off of your first thing, you live a life, and you start to like you want to live a certain way.
Oh
Well, you
yeah.
want to live a certain way. That money ain't lasting that.
Yeah.
I can live a certain way, but I don't know. I sometimes think about it when I think about my younger self. I don't know how I ate 7 days a week and how I existed, how I made rent on time, how I made how what did I eat every day to sustain? I knew at my local cafe had the fry ups. So if I yeah, if I existed on that, I lived on, I made £42 a week signing on the social security.
Yeah.
So that I live on that. And if I did a day of painting, I'd get £50, which is kind of illegal, but you'd get 92 for the week. And then you have to, and I don't know how I lived. And it wasn't like I went around going, I don't know what to do. It wasn't waiting. I was just like having a great time and just getting by, living. I didn't know any different. It's only when you know different that you start thinking, well, how am I never went to a restaurant. I didn't go out to eat. I didn't really, well, I did, but it would be like, okay, I just knew if I could, I just was sort of a bit limited. But so yeah, that stuff, money. I just thought that I still think like this. I love my I've maintained this kind of naivete. It's a borderline ignorance as well, really, because it's bitten me as well. But I just think money comes if you make something good. The emphasis should be on whatever it is you do that it's good, and I think it's monetized. Now I've been fucked in that regard, in that I've done things that I thought were good and monetized them and been and shafted and not made money on things, or haven't been profitable. But I think that if you just put everything into something that you do, money finds a way. Money does find a way.
Right. Have you thought about selling your catalog like everybody's doing?
Yeah, I actually, when I got offered it, I get offered it every couple of bit of time I get offered. And so the other time, the last time, I suddenly was like, all I kept on thinking was, well, like, if they want to offer me that much money, why, you know, which part, what am I the idiot? What's the invisible bit that I'm not seeing? What's the subtext that also in brackets, because he's an idiot? Because they're an
Right.
idiot.
Right.
In brackets, because they're an idiot. So and so, because they're an idiot. Because it's just a multiple of what you're going to make, and then you don't make it, and then they continue to make it, and you'll. The funny thing about life is, look, here we are at this point in our lives. You're always going to get to the point. There, people are going to have sold it, and then get to the point where that year they don't get anything from it, and a big corporation is getting it from that, and none of the beneficiaries, none of the people you're responsible for, none of the people that you're are going to get it. It's just the end of that road. And so it's a psychologically weird thing you got to really tap out. So I really made it easy. I actually found a house in Malibu I loved. I asked my business manager, to do all the math, like property tax, insurance, a good income, fucking, 25 years. I don't have to think about this house. What would that cost me? And he came back with a number. And so I went back to the company. I was like, listen, I thank you for that, but actually I need about that much more. So I'd have to continue writing songs. If you can pay me that, I'm all in.
Oh, fuck.
So that's what I did. I was like, fuck it. And like, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, great talking to
So
you,
no, I
man.
didn't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks
And
for having me.
I hope to see you. Come on down to the Comedy Store as my.
When's your next show?
I'm there all the time. I'll be
Really?
there this week. You can just get my info from
I'll get it from
Nina.
Nina. Cheers. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, Dean. See you
Later.
around. See
Later,
you down
bud.
there.